Well, it's not a buzzword. We've had that in the channel for years. How many times have I heard people say, well, an engineer will last about 2 years and then, well, we're firefighters and they can't handle it. Well, I think that's not necessarily true. ITBD has team members that have been with us 16, 17 years, and every year we're more hitting the decade mark. It's how are we leading our people? And I think that's the biggest challenge that I'm seeing in the channel right now is that we lack quality leadership.
Hello, welcome, and thank you for tuning into Channel Voices, the podcast for future channel leaders, where we learn the ins and outs of partner ecosystems through casual conversations with channel professionals from a variety of industries, partner types, and geographies. My name is Maciek, and I'm your host. Kam Kaila, welcome to Channel Voices.
Oh, thank you for having me, Magic. So excited.
Lovely to have you. When we typically kick these things off, we'd like to learn about your background in the channel. So,
Mhm.
could you run us through, just quickly, briefly, what your background in the channel is?
Sure. So we started out as an MSP. So back in 2003 is when we launched ITBD. So it's been 20 years this year. I came into the organization in 2005. I have an education background, and we needed some help in the company at the time. And little did we know that I would be good at sales and marketing. And so we were running an MSP in New York City, and for so many years um, I was, up and down. You know the difference between avenues and blocks in New York City and streets by the length and how much you have to walk. So you definitely got your steps in. And so we were a managed service practice for many, many years. We didn't actually start focusing on channel only until 2016. We developed our channel offering in 2013, but up until that point, we've been a managed service practice. New York City, we were the vendor of choice for the New York Stock Exchange. And so I'm used to speaking with traders on a regular basis. So people will always tell you I'm pretty blunt. And that's because I have experience with traders. And so they like to hear it as it is and no
Short
sugarcoating
and to
it.
the point.
Exactly. And so, and no wishy washy, just, say what it is. And so for 10 years, New York City was our playground, and that's where we provide managed services. And then in 2013, we started to convert and started offering our staffing arm to some of our peers. Where one of our peers actually started it. He was like, "You guys are so profitable, and I need some help. How are you doing it?" And we told him that we had our own network operations center in India, and he asked to borrow an engineer. And so him borrowing that one engineer led to us launching our staffing division. We were doing that concurrently at the same time. And then in 2016, we became the network operations center for ConnectWise at the time. And that's when we became a channel only company. But, we are an MSP. And so that's our roots. That's where we started. And it's in our heart and our blood for the past 20 years.
Very good. And congratulations on that fabulous anniversary, 20 years. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of celebrations around the company and with customers as well, I'm sure.
Oh, yes, we're extremely proud of it. And I think one of the things that we're most proud about is that we're still individually owned and operated, and there's zero debt. And that's not something many companies can say right now. There is no other equity. It's just me and Sunny. And we're slow and steady, and we worry about our people. And we're 600 families strong in our organization right now. And it's all just, hard work and slow and steady wins the race.
Just going back to the point you made in terms of, that one other company wanting to borrow an engineer and how it all
Hmm.
kind of kicked off for you.
Yes.
Before and during pandemic, we heard so much about the shortage of talent
Mhm.
in IT and in channel. But now we had those recent layoffs. Now, has that situation changed? Is there still talent shortage out on the market? How do you see this?
I think it depends on what type of talent you're looking for. What I'm saying is that, and I'm not judging anybody, but during the pandemic, I think what happened is people started working from home. And there's a certain mindset that a lot of people start to embody when they work from home. And are we If we're off getting our hair done in the middle of the day, or we're at a dentist appointment in the middle of the day, like we set some behavior patterns that I think some organizations now, when they're looking at how they're cutting costs, they're looking at those individuals that either aren't coming back to the office and maybe they want them back to the office. They're looking at productivity, right? Are those are usually the first people. Or the biggest problem I'm seeing right now is during the great resignation, people got outlandish packages and were offered so much money to stay. And now that that's stopped, the companies that are overpaying for talent are now cutting. And that's the talent that I'm seeing is now, I don't want to say that they're the ones that are being let go first because they're overpriced. And so that's one of the challenges I think a lot of people don't understand is when you overprice yourself in the market, you're limiting your options of your career growth. Because when you're not, yes, everybody, if you're talented, great, wonderful, I'm so happy for you, you should earn every dollar that you are worth. But when you're at that point where now you don't provide something that's unique to the organization that they can't replace with someone else, and you're overpriced, that's what's happening. And so a
Right.
lot of companies are now right sizing their budgets again, right? They're going back and, okay, it was necessary because the great resignation happened and COVID hit and we had to keep all our people. We didn't want to lose them. But now all of a sudden you're seeing all those companies go back and fix those books because
Yes.
talent is very expensive now. And so our prices stayed the same. In fact, during COVID, we actually dropped our rates. We reached out to customers ourselves and we said, hey, we know it's tough here. We're going to bring it down. How can we help you? And we did an outreach program for every customer. And, they to this day thank us because they didn't ask, but we wanted to give. And I think it was important that everybody had to stay strong together. But that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot of companies right sizing their talent. And what for us MSPs, we don't usually hire the expensive talent, right? Like we like to hire them young usually and home grow them, right? Unless we're looking for SMEs. With ITBD, we've got an entire process. Like it's the training program is so custom and we've spent 20 years building it to really make them MSP ready that, yes, there's cheaper talent out in the market, but I don't think they compare in terms of the talent we have. So, yes, there's layoffs, but I don't think it's impacting MSPs as much because of the fact that many of those people are extreme, have really high packages, and I don't think many MSPs can afford them.
Cam, you having started as an MSP, you would have known what it was like back in 2013,
Oh
what
yeah.
it is like today. How have you seen the model and the market change since?
Oh, well, back then it used to be bank of hours and, you'd try to, I remember when I first got my very first monthly recurring revenue deal. I was like, this, break fix stuff is not working for me. And when I came in and we had, we'd been industrious, but we didn't have a sales and marketing structure when I started, and it was trying to understand how do we make this something that's a repeatable process. And so we've evolved, right? We used to be per device, then the industry moved to per user. Now I see some people coming back to per device. We've always stayed per device. I felt it was an easier way for us to sell. But, I see now people are lumping in security as well. Like as a salesperson, and I always call myself, it's in my blood and I'm really good at it. I want to keep it simple.
Right.
How simple can I make it for the end user? And if somebody is buying something, if you make the package too difficult for them to understand, or if there's going to be an issue of integrity. See, that's the reason I always had the problem with the per user model. You'd hear, oh, but he's an intern and he's only here a couple of days. And so, well, then are you questioning their integrity? And then you get into a back and forth. Here, in a per user, in a per device model, I'm sorry, you've got 10 desktops. I'm managing 10 desktops.
Right.
I've got two servers, there's two servers. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And then you don't get into an argument with your customer unnecessarily. And I've never liked that back and forth. I think, building goodwill with your customers, and everybody likes clarity.
Yes.
It's really important. So your billing should always be easy, simple, and face value, whatever you're charging.
Yeah, simplicity sometimes is hard to achieve, right? Because
Yes.
we operate in a very complex world with complex solutions, and in
Yeah.
many cases, in multiple complex solutions at once. But yeah, it's definitely simplicity is from what I've been seeing as well. It's really desired by customers.
Yeah, and one thing I'm seeing is that actually some people are hurting themselves. They're actually bulking together services in a flat fee. Well, they don't understand. Well, the Craigslist guy or your competitor down the road, he's not. He's breaking it down line item by line item, and so it's not an apples to apples comparison. And so you're actually hurting yourself sometimes. And I know I'm going against the grain, and there's a lot of gurus out there that are like bulk it together, package it. But from a messaging and from a sales perspective, they're going to compare you to the guy next door anyways. And so how do you make yourself at least be apples to apples in the comparison model? If there are other services that are a must, break them down, but list them underneath so that the customer sees apples to apples service and support is equal.
Yeah, but it is the contrarian ideas that typically win it out there, right? So,
Yeah.
so maybe you're onto something, but it's great that it's working for you. And just in terms of MSPs, you work with them day in and day out. What are they struggling with today from your point of view?
So yes, they're struggling to find people. So I think it's all things talent is what they're struggling with. So they're struggling to find good people, but I think they're also, and I've said this before, the biggest problem in the channel right now is we don't have enough leadership. And there's a lack of leadership that is necessary in the channel. The talent that we have is not engaged, right? They say the buzzword quiet quitting. Well, it's not a buzzword. We've had that in the channel for years. How many times have I heard people say, well, an engineer will last about 2 years and then, well, we're firefighters and they can't handle it. Well, I think that's not necessarily true. ITBD has team members that have been with us 16, 17 years, and every year we're more hitting the decade mark. It's how are we leading our people? And I think that's the biggest challenge that I'm seeing in the channel right now is that we lack quality leadership. Well, it's not a buzzword. We've had that in the channel for years. How many times have I heard people say, well, an engineer will last about 2 years and then, well, we're firefighters and they can't handle it. Well, I think that's not necessarily true. ITBD has team members that have been with us 16, 17 years, and every year we're more hitting the decade mark. It's how are we leading our people? And I think that's the biggest challenge that I'm seeing in the channel right now is that we lack quality leadership about how we build our culture and how we engage our team members. It's important that we're looking at, do they feel included? Right? There's a sense of inclusiveness. Do they feel belonging? Right? Do they see that there is purpose to what they are doing? And a lot of MSPs aren't effectively able to communicate that. And there's tools out there and they've got like different tools and they don't really connect together. It's one of the reasons we launched our team GPS software. We built it for ourselves internally during COVID because we had all of our staff across the world. Actually, they were dispersed in India, they were dispersed across this country and Canada. And so connecting everybody together and providing tools for our leaders to effectively manage and engage people when they are dispersed, and then the trainings that come with that, I think it's important. And I think that's one of the things that the channel is most missing. And I hope that that's something that people start to invest in. I'm definitely banging that drum right now.
Very good. And in terms of how IT by design helps MSPs go to the next level, because it's not just providing resources, right? There's so much more that you do. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you help those MSPs fuel their growth?
Yeah, definitely. So, yes, we provide technical talent, right? That's our bread and butter. That's what we've done for 20 years. Where MSPs have options. If they want us to be the thought leader and for us to manage everything for them, then we have a knock, right? Where it's a shared service, you pay your little portion of it and our team is managing every piece of it for you. And that's, a really easy model for a lot of the smaller and even some of the larger MSPs that don't want the headache of having to stay on top of technology and trends and security. But then there's the other component where we actually have these dedicated engineers that we're actually grooming them and putting them through our own dedicated boot camps. And we spent 20 years figuring out how to make engineers good for MSPs. And it is our secret sauce. And so we help people find talent, but then we also have built out Team GPS, which is our software that helps MSPs engage talent now. One of the big things that I love is that in it, we have implemented a strategy component. So it's basically an employee engagement software where you're able to put your strategy in it, but then you're also able to build out employee scorecards into it
Okay.
so that employees can see how their work actually impacts the greater good. I always use the example of, let's say an MSP says, I want to grow $1 million on my VTO this year. Okay, well, sales has got to bring in $1 million. Out of that, marketing's got to bring in 1,000 leads. Well, the 1,000 leads, 800 have to come from email marketing and 200 have to come from social media. Well, whoever's in charge of email marketing, that's your number. And as they're updating their number on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis, it's automatically updating the VTO on how we'll do. And so it gives them insight into the organization, but it also allows that individual to know that my work has purpose. We integrated rewards and recognition into it. We implemented one-on-ones, which is a lot of people don't realize the value of doing a one-on-one with your team member once a week. And managers, even the ratio of managers is off. One person can only effectively manage 7 people. And so we've built that into it. And we've actually built in scorecards that are the one-on-one scorecards. We've used our best practices. So the tool actually incorporates a lot of ITBD's blood, sweat, and tears in the tool, where we're giving you, hey, this is how a one-on-one should happen. And it's standardized so that just because, I'm doing the one-on-one versus, let's say, Sunny, and he has his style and I have my style, but every employee should be equal and be heard, and have the ability to say what they need to say to that leader. And then we store the one-on-ones, because one of the biggest things we've realized is that many times the employees, so we 100% know that employees leave bad managers, they don't leave companies. And so when an employee is disgruntled or upset, you then have the ability to go back into the system and look up all those one-on-ones. Is it an employee issue or is it a manager issue? And so that's one of the things that we've incorporated. You've got your CSATs and all that fun stuff. So we help you engage your team. But then what we've also seen is that, like I said, that lack of leadership. So it started 5 years ago with Build It, when we launched our own conference. We love to share. Sharing is caring is our mantra. And so one of the things that we did with that is that we said, we're going to build an entire conference that is 100% focused on making sure that people in the channel get access to information that they need. It's not an event that's about, hey, here's this product or that product. This is a 100% pay it forward event where you come to the event, you get a big book full of templates and tools, and it's all relevant to what they need today. And so we launched Build It 5 years ago. And so that started our journey through how are we helping MSPs understand the value of leadership. And so we've launched our communities. And in our communities, what we have is we have 2 types of training programs. We have one training program that's for the individual, if you want professional development for yourself, and it's based on your role within the organization. And so we have a lot of companies that'll send, let's say, a service manager into one of our communities to help them learn the best practices of being a service manager, which is probably one of the biggest challenges that I'm seeing right now. Is there are a lot of service leaders that don't have effective training on, can they read a P&L? Do they even know what profitability looks like? Or are you just handing them a team and saying, oh, well, I need you to manage well, but understaffed? Well, you're not really being a good leader for them then. And so our communities help, the COPs will help the individual. And then we do corporate training, where we've actually seen at IT Nation, I gave you this example earlier, Magic. At IT Nation, we went into a room and we were doing a session on quiet quitting this past year, and we had 170 people in the room. And, you ask your standard questions. How many people have been manager, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? And then when I asked the question, how many people have actual formal leadership training? 3 people put up their hand in a room of 170 people.
Wow. Yeah.
And so that's the reason we launched corporate training. And it's leadership training that's specific for the MSP. It is the best gift that you could give your organization. It's very cost efficient, but it's more our give back initiative of that's the impact we want to leave in the channel now. We've spent 20 years growing. We're happy. We have a beautiful family at ITBD here. What we want to do is we want to leave impact on others, and we feel that the leadership training and build it, that's what makes us feel good at night.
Very
The
good.
work is necessary. Don't get me wrong. We got to pay the bills, but build it is where we get to feel good at night.
Excellent. And I know when we connected and we had a massive conversation around that training that you provide for MSPs and that corporate training as well. Corporate training for leadership is not necessarily new. It's been out there for quite some time. How does it really differ from everything else that's out there in the market? Like what is so custom or so really tailored to those MSPs that would really make a difference?
So we have a lot that we've built in that's very specific to MSPs. For example, resiliency training. How many times have you been in a leadership program where they actually teach you about resilience?
That's true.
I've never been in one, but it's important to our channel, right? Because that's the reason you have people only staying for 2 years. Have you taught your leaders to teach resiliency training? No, probably not. And that's an important component, right? There's a way that we deliver service. Well, when you're, and your leadership methods, it's very important. And I'm John Maxwell Leadership Certified. We've done the collaborative way. We've done all of these different training programs, strategic coach. But MSPs, while I like to say, hey, we need to go outside of the channel, we also need to understand there is a way that we communicate with our customers and within our organization that we have to be conscious of. It's how are we growing our people? How are we making them resilient? How are we teaching them effective communication skills? When they are, I always say, I can hear it when you answer with a smile, right? At our organization, we always make sure that when you answer, good afternoon, business help desk, how are you answering with a smile? Right? People can hear it. And so, service orientated companies and leadership training that's specific for that, I don't know if there's any type of formal training program. And we also feel that leadership, you'll go into a program, they'll be there for 6 weeks, and then you'll be done and you'll be like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as you walk out of the room, you've lost 80% of the retention of what you learned. And so our program is actually a full year. We're making you commit. And there's actually, again, Rita doesn't like it when I say quizzes and homework, but there is
Yeah.
in some regard. You have to do
You
recall.
have to practice it, right? I mean, like with anything in life, if you do not practice what you've learned, you are going to lose it, right? It
Exactly.
has to become muscle memory nearly for that to work.
Exactly. Well, Sunny likes to call it protein.
Yeah.
It's protein for your body. You need protein. Everybody needs protein for their body, but you've got to also move it. You got to move your muscles, right? And you've got to practice. And so our program is mandatory 1 year. And in that 1 year, there's, one day a month where we're going to come in and we're going to do it remotely, but we're going to get your entire leadership team together and we're going to train you together. And what that does is it also gives you visibility as an owner. It's important for me to see which of my leaders are on par with my vision and are capable of leading our team. Am I doing our organization and our community a disservice by having this person in a leadership role? Everything becomes very clear when you all learn together and you start to practice and do homework. Very soon you will start to see, you know, sending the one person to training may or may not be helpful, but as soon as you see that, wait, he's not committed, he didn't do his homework, well, wait, that's the reaction that they got. The entire team starts to be able to assess, okay, these are the good leaders and I should go and learn and ask some mentorship from them. And then these are the people that, okay, we need to either do some significant training and coaching with this individual, or we need to manage them out.
Right.
And that's a service you are doing for your people.
Yeah. And Cam, let's say MSPs will really start investing in these type of trainings and
Yeah.
really hone in and invest in their people, not only to keep them but to develop them, right? And throughout that, probably get to keep them too. But they
Yeah.
will be developing new leaders within the MSP community, within the channel. Where do you think the MSPs are going in terms of the evolution? Is there anything that jumps at you where you believe that where the managed services industry is going towards?
Yeah. There's a lot of consolidation happening right now. And so what's happening is you have a lot of companies that are buying up other companies. And so they're not effectively merging the cultures of the organizations. And that's probably one of the biggest challenges that I'm seeing for those. So you will see a lot of, I don't want to say they're merging, you don't want to say gobble up, but some of the big ones are, right?
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. They're going in and they're actively finding the people that are ready to go, right? And I always say, everybody has an exit plan, right? And if you're saying that you don't, then you're lying to yourself, or you really are, you're not lying to me because I know everybody's got an exit plan, right? This isn't Thelma and Louise. You're not ride and dying, right? Like everybody needs to have it. And if you don't have it, then are you being a good leader for your organization? Because everybody, again, that back to that vision and that purpose, everybody wants to work for someone who has a purpose.
Yes.
And so with the community now, with people acquiring others, one of the things that I think that a lot of MSPs need to do now is that they need to be honest with themselves that maybe not today, but maybe in 10 years, 20 years, I will sell, right? Because there are so many of these big ones that are now coming in and acquiring MSPs. And so if you are going to do that, it's your responsibility to do your research. Go do your homework. Learn who's out there. But definitely, to answer your question, that's what I see happening. And because I see that happening actually at Build It, we've launched Acquisition Alley, where we actually are bringing a lot of these larger MSPs together. And we want our customers and other MSPs to be able to go and ask the tough questions. And so rather than, I think that every MSP has the ability to get the best offer for their company. And so what I'm doing with it is I'm bringing together all of these platforms that are currently, building themselves up. And I want you to go and learn from all of them. Whose culture aligns with you best, right? If you are saying, hey, look, I value my people and I want to make sure that I find a good home for them, then look at the cultures, right? Go see who connects best with you. But if you're really just looking for the best dollar, then go look again. But you don't know that unless you're relying on just one or two connections. And so I like, again, we're a capitalist society. I want everybody to have the ability to access as many people as possible. And that's the biggest thing I see a lot of MSPs doing. And I think that they should, for at least to do the research and know when their exit plan is, and what does that look like, what's that number, right?
Sure. And so with all of that, packaging all of this together, if you were to give, top 3 tips to any MSP of absolutely any size, of regardless of their geolocation,
Mm-hmm.
top 3 tips, what should they concentrate on for the next 1 to 3 years?
Okay. One, employee experience. We all focus on customers, but actually, it's proven that if you focus on employee experience, you will grow 4 times as fast. So, focus on your employee experience. Happy employees will answer with a smile, right? And that will get you better service, and your customers will see it. Some MSPs too, make sure you're right staffed. We sometimes want to, and I get it, we need to look at the bottom dollar and make sure that we stay profitable, but that can't come at the risk of overwhelming other team members. And so I see that a lot where, or maybe somebody's trying to exit and they'll understaff so that they can get a better number. It's not always the best way to go, right? And local is not always, is not always the best.
Mhm.
Some people feel that, oh no, well, I want to hire locally just because of this. Well, then it's going to come down to my third, which is look at your bottom dollar, right? You can't get emotional at the end of this day sometimes. Yes, I love our community and we are great people, and but finances are important.
Yeah.
My people, our 600 people rely on us to manage our books well. And you can't make emotional decisions sometimes. If we're I'll use our example. We're half the cost of a local individual in many markets for our high end engineer versus a help desk person nowadays. And so a lot of MSPs are seeing that, and you do see that there's some work that they are taking out, but I think many people have roles that are being filled with subpar people that they should think about. Well, how do they right size their talent pool and make sure that they're delivering what they say they should? And it took me a long time to get to that point. I'm being very honest. I was very emotional with team members until I finally realized that, wait a second, if they're not doing their job well, am I being fair to the entire organization? I have a responsibility. And if somebody else has to pick up the slack because this individual isn't doing their job well, then that's not fair to that individual either. And I'm not being fair. And so there's fairness in equity of work. And I think that's really important that MSPs need to think about. And then right size your books, right?
And speaking of things taking a long time, what's the one thing you wish you knew before starting your career in channel?
That people's opinions of me don't define me. The channel is tough. People always have opinions of others, and I live by the mantra, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And I think a lot of people don't realize that you need to remember that when you're communicating to people. When I first started, again, coming from traders, I'm honest. I would cut right to the chase, and I would be kind about it. But a lot of people were taken aback. Oh, wait, here's this strong woman coming and telling me that I have to do this or that. And some people were taken aback. And when you hear things and you get worried about what people are saying, it starts to consume you. And it took me a few years to figure out, and a lot of leadership training to understand that I define myself.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to host you on Channel Voices. And we wish you a fantastic 2023, because it sounds like you're going to have plenty of celebrations with that 20-year anniversary. Wishing you continued success. And don't be a stranger. Stay in touch.
Oh, thank you so much, Magic. Really appreciate it. And hopefully I'll see you at Build It and you can do a live podcast from Build It. We'd love to have you
That would be
there.
great.
Truly, truly value all that you are doing and sharing voices with the channel. Much love.
Thank you so much. And that's a wrap for this episode. I do hope you found it valuable, and if you did, please make sure to subscribe and leave a review. You can also follow Channel Voices Podcast on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. Or just visit channelvoices.com, where you can send me a message or leave a voicemail. All of the links are listed in the show notes. And once again, I appreciate you tuning in today. Until next time.